Hello and welcome to the Monroe Method Clancast. I am Jason Monroe and this is episode 73. Now, it's been a few weeks since I've recorded an episode. I have been a combination of things. I've been unwell, still not quite right, and I've been very busy building things and creating things and wrote and created a brand new program. I wrote and created a calorie calculator that calculates people's calories over my Instagram DMs for me. So I've been extremely busy as well as feeling a bit shitty and under the weather. Anyway, today I felt inspired to record an episode because I've just had 3 consecutive conversations with clients of mine who were all of a similar weight, and I had the same conversation with each of them. I have no idea what today's podcast episode is going to be titled. I'm going to wait till I get to the end and then I'll decide what it's going to be, but I know what it's about. So for someone, let's focus on the 19 stone side of things here. For someone to achieve a body weight of 19 stones, they would have to overconsume a lot, right? That's a lot of overeating. And it's not just, one day on a Saturday, one thing here, one thing there. It's daily. So I'm going to throw some numbers at you just to paint a picture. These are fictitious numbers. I've just kept the kind of weight side of things around the same level. So picture a 40-year-old female who is 5'6", and she weighs 19 stones. And she's doing around 5,000 steps per day. Now, her calorie burn would be somewhere around 2,400 calories per day. Now, remember, that 2,400 calories, that is the number of calories required for that person to maintain their weight of 19 stone. Now, that's not a weight that they want to be, obviously, because they're working with me and they want to change that. But that's the number of calories required for them to maintain their current weight. I don't think it's very hard to get this point across to people because people want to know what their calorie burn is. And it's like, oh, cool, I'm burning that amount of calories. That's great. It's not necessarily great because it's reflective of the size of your body. It's reflective of the amount of body fat you are carrying. In case you don't know, every pound of body fat that we carry burns 2 to 3 calories per day. Now, your body fat is a living tissue. It is comprised of energy that you once consumed and didn't use. The thing I always think about, I was lighter in my teens than I am now. I was very athletic, very outdoorsy. I joined the Navy, ridiculously athletic when I was in the Navy. So I was much lighter. I was, probably 10 stone back then. I haven't been 10 stone since back then. Fuck knows. I don't know where I sit just now. Between 11 and 12, probably. But at my heaviest, I was 14 and a half, approaching 15 stone. So the way that I like to think of this is, right? In my teens, I could have a slice of toast stuck to my bum that I ate when I was 19. And when I left the Navy, got a job in a call centre, started my career. Not quite. I got sacked from that job, actually. Worked at Thomas Cook call centre for 3 years, got sacked for not making sales eventually. A long time ago now. So I could have a slice of toast stuck to my bum right now, because when I was in the Navy I was 10 stone. When I left the Navy I went up to 11 stone, 12 stone. So that 11 and 12 stone, I think the lightest I've been down to is 11 exactly, maybe just under 11. I've never went back to 10 stone, and I never will. Fuck, I'm too big now it would be ridiculous trying to get there. That would be me going down to seriously low levels of body fat. I'm not a teenager anymore, of course. Anyway, the point is, I could have a slice of toast stuck to my bum that I ate when I was 19 years old, And I have never gone back to that, and it was an extra. It contributed to becoming a piece of body fat on my body. And I added more weight on top of that, more weight on top of that. That piece of toast, the calories, the energy from that piece of toast is still stuck to my bum. Because I have never dropped my body fat low enough to tap back into that fat. That's wild to me. So the point there was, the body fat you are carrying, it is food that you ate last week, last month, last year, 10 years ago. If you've consistently, if, for example, these people who I'm going to speak about who are 19 stone, if the lightest they've managed to get down to is 16 stone, and once upon a time they were 8, 9, 10 stone, then they've got 6, 7, 8 stones of weight of food, things that they've eaten over years, still on and around their bodies because they've never went back to use them up. So hopefully that helps get the point across about what the body fat you're carrying is. It is food, specifically it's energy. It's the energy from the food that you consumed, which was surplus to requirements because you were consuming more calories than your body needed, and it had to get stored somewhere on and around your body as body fat. Now it's a backup fuel source for you to tap into at a time when you need it. So if you go into a calorie deficit and start consuming less than you need, you will take so much from food, and when the food calories run out, you will start to take from your body fat. That's how a calorie deficit works. But the point is, for someone to achieve a weight of 19 stone, that is a significant amount of consistent overconsumption. You can't gain that overnight. That's years of accumulated weight. And the reason this is important is it's because that's who you are. That's what your lifestyle is. Your weight doesn't go anywhere by itself, right? Your weight is not something that happens to you. It is something that you unintentionally, but still directly do to yourself through your consumption habits, eating, drinking, and everything in between. And if you have reached a point where your weight is 19 stone and you have been there for a long time, it's because you have a lifestyle, a series of habits, a series of thoughts, behaviours, mindset, everything creates this diet that far exceeds your body's needs. So coming back again to that example, right? 40-year-old female, 5'6", weighing 19 stone, doing around 5,000 steps a day. Her calorie burn would be around 2,400 calories per day. So like I said, that is the number of calories required to keep that person at 19 stone, right? That's what maintenance is by definition, the maintenance of one's current body weight. And that's what I was getting to, right? When I went off on a tangent. People look at their calorie burn and they just measure it by size and think, oh, that's great. I'll be able to diet on high calories. And they often overlook the fact that their calorie burn is where it is because of the amount of body fat they're carrying. So like I started to touch on, a pound of body fat burns 2 to 3 calories per day because your body needs to use energy to keep that body fat alive. It's a living tissue. It's a backup fuel source. It can't die. It has to stay alive because someday in the future, your body might need that. So your body has to keep it alive, and that costs energy. So a pound of body fat, around 2 to 3 calories per day is the estimate. So if you are carrying 100 pounds of extra body fat and you lose it, like quite a few of my clients have done over time, your BMR, first of all, so there's 2 parts to this. Part 1 is your BMR, and this is where that extra 2 to 3 calories per pound of body fat comes in. It adds to your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, the number of calories your body would expend just performing basic functions like keeping body fat alive, but many other things. So if your BMR, this person's BMR I think was somewhere around 1800, between 1800 and 1900. If they lost 100 pounds, their BMR would come down by 200 to 300 calories, right? That's part 1. Part 2 of the equation is life gets easier as you get lighter. So, for example, let's say you exercise, or let's say you go for a walk, or you go for a run or whatever, try doing it wearing a backpack full of bricks, as an example. I often say this about weighted vests when people lose like 10 kilos, 20 kilos, especially runners. I'm like, imagine putting a weighted vest on and going about your day now. How would you feel? So imagine, in fact, not even exercise. Imagine you woke up in the morning and you had to put on a backpack full of bricks and you had to go about your entire day. You had to get up, come down the stair, get sorted, do housework, get ready for work, go to work, move around an office, all the things that you do in a day. But you have to wear this backpack full of bricks weighing 20 odd kilos 24/7, right? How many extra calories would you burn? How much more difficult would life be? How much more challenging would a walk around the supermarket be? How out of breath would you get walking up a set of stairs? Having to carry that on your back would make life more difficult. And if life is more difficult, your body is having to work harder. If your body is having to work harder, you are burning more calories. So that's part 2 of the equation. If someone loses 100 pounds, yes, their BMR comes down, but also their overall calorie burn comes down because life has gotten easier. You're no longer taking 100 pounds with you everywhere you go. You're no longer taking the backpack of bricks with you everywhere you go. Going up and down the stairs is easier. It requires less energy, less effort, so it burns less calories. So that's part 2. And this is why this is important, because if you are someone who has achieved quite a high level of body fat, you're carrying quite a high level of extra weight, it is because you have a lot of things going on that all add up together to contribute to a lifestyle that is far in excess of your body's needs. So, and this is the thing I want you to focus on today, and this is such an important thing to understand. It's such an important lesson. Coming back to this example, 40-year-old, 5'6". I put them through a BMI calculator, and I go with what the high end of a BMI, what a healthy weight range might be. So someone who is 40 years old and 5'6", the top end of the BMI scale of what a healthy weight might be for them would be 11 stones, 70 something kilos. So, and this is the tough part. So remember, at 19 stones, their maintenance calories were 2,400. If that person manages to lose 9 stones, completely transform their life, lose the weight they want to lose, their maintenance calories will come down from 2,400 to 1,800. And this is the important part, right? Anyone can lose weight. When you have a significant amount of weight like that to lose, 9 stone, if someone is able to take their weight to 19 stones, it's going to require drastic lifestyle overhauls to get to a healthier weight. It's not just someone trying to lose 10 pounds or lose a stone. They've only got a couple of things to tweak to bring their weight down again. To reach a high level of body fat, you have numerous things going on that all need to be addressed. Perhaps you're eating takeaways multiple times per week. Perhaps you emotionally eat. Perhaps you have the all or nothing mindset where you eat one thing on a Friday and you carry it on until a Sunday night. Maybe you binge drink every weekend. All these little bits and pieces that add up to your diet being X amount of calories over what your body needs, and your body has had to continue to get bigger and bigger to try and match the level you're consuming at. So that's a great example, right? Let's put it at the opposite end of the scale. Let's focus on this 11 stone person. Their maintenance calories are 1,800. If they ate 2,400 calories every single day, those are the maintenance calories of a 19 stone person. Their body would get bigger and bigger and bigger until they had added enough weight onto their body to make 2,400 their maintenance calories. Does that make sense? So the reason this is important is, and this is the conversation that I just had with these 3 consecutive people who were all of a similar weight, who had looked through their things and they'd gone through periods of gaining a few pounds again over very short periods of time. And it's because they revert back to that old way of doing things. One occasion was Christmas. Someone went through Christmas and regained 5 or 6 pounds over the Christmas period. 5 or 6 pounds over a couple, and it was body fat because their weight was higher, but it came down, and where it settled, it showed that was body fat. You have to overconsume by a considerable amount every day to gain 5 or 6 pounds over a 10 to 14 day period, and it shows you how that person has gained that weight in the first place, because on occasions like Christmas, it's not just a few extras, it's thousands extra. It's big days of eating or drinking. And it's really important to get that message across that, people come to me because they want help losing weight, but they don't just want to lose weight. They want to lose weight and stop dieting. They want to lose weight for life. They want to bring yo-yo dieting to an end. And, I don't just do check-ins with people and say, yep, great job, keep going, like I've seen fucking countless other places do. People do, coaches, quote-unquote coaches do. Great job, keep going. It's not as simple as that. If you want to help someone for life, you have to transform them. You can't just transform their body. You can't just transform their weight. You can't just celebrate going from one number on a scale to another number on a scale, because that's meaningless if the person doesn't change. So these 3 people that I'm working with who are all of a similar weight, the thing that I'm going to focus on very hard with them as I go through their check-ins is continually addressing and understanding what happens on these excessive consumption days. What's the series of events? What is it that makes you want to consume at this level? So when it's your birthday weekend, or when it's an anniversary, or when it's a holiday, why do you have to come back 3, 4, 5 pounds heavier? Why do you have to consume thousands and thousands of extra calories over and above what you need to be able to enjoy yourself? Those are the things that we need to really focus on, because we need to scale those down. And then that just comes from it just comes from educating them for a start. And then it'll be very specific to the person based on the purpose, based on the reason behind it. Like, it will vary wildly from person to person. Oh, it's my birthday, I just want to enjoy myself. So the question then is, well, why does it take 4,000 or 5,000 calories for you to enjoy yourself? Remember, you only need at the moment, at your current weight, you only need 2,400 in a day. Why do you need to have double that? What is it you're eating? What is it you're drinking? What do you need to reach that level for? And the thing is, if that's what someone wants to do, then we have to have a very different conversation, where I have to say, well, if that's how you want to live, if that's how you want to treat your body, then you're going to have to accept that you're not going to get to the weight that you want to be. Imagine someone did get to 11 stones and their calorie burn was 1,800 calories per day. I spoke about this in another podcast episode. You may have heard it or not, but I work with a lot of people who want, and these are just the numbers I pick out the sky because I've used them multiple times now, but I work with a lot of people who want the 9-stone body, but they want the 12-stone lifestyle. Basically meaning that they want to physically be a 9-stone person, because that's the number that they've picked that they want to see on the scale. But simultaneously, they want to eat and drink and act and behave and have the lifestyle of someone whose weight should be 12 stone. And that's where things get difficult, right? Because those things do not compute. You can't, you listening to this right now, you probably have weight that you want to lose, or maybe you're trying to maintain your weight. And you also have a bunch of things that you like to do that are related to food or drink. And it's not necessarily picking one or the other. Like, it's never about picking one or the other. It's never about stopping doing things. It's never about giving things up. It's about addressing the scale that you do things at, right? Everything's about the scale. It's not about restriction and never doing this again and stopping that and changing that habit so you never do it again. It's never about that. That doesn't help. It is all about the scale that you want to do things at. And then deciding like what kind of scale you want to live at. So me, for example, right now I maintain a body weight between 11 and 12 stones, I think, all year round, right? It fluctuates up and down throughout the year. I'm probably sitting towards the higher end of that just now, and it fluctuates up and down throughout the year. And that's because of where I live. I could live probably a stone less. I could make changes to the way that I live, but I don't want to. Like, why would I want to not do some of the things that I do? Why would I want to try and scale back on some of the things I eat? Why would I want to make adjustments to that? I'm already a healthy weight. So I don't need to scale things back any further. If I really desperately wanted to be leaner, then I would have to look at some of my habits and say, right, where can I start to make some adjustments? Not remove things, not stop eating things, not cancel things out, but I would have to scale my lifestyle down a bit to match the size of body that I want to be. Once I've used this thing quite a lot talking to people on check-ins, like once upon a time, having visible abs was important to me, like it is to most guys at some point in life. Sadly, I do not have the genetics to have visible abs. For me to do that, I have to go down to the lower end of a living stone. And I have done it a few times over the last 5 or 6 years, but I can't stay there. For me to stay there, I have to make significant lifestyle changes, and it requires effort, and it has to be done intentionally. And if I don't continually enforce the things that help me stay at that weight, then it comes back up to this kind of typical level. When I stopped drinking alcohol, my weight dropped very sharply. So I do sit lighter than I have done in the past because alcohol's no longer a part of my life. But I still drink non-alcohol options, much less of them, but they still add calories in. But that's an example of scaling back. I mean, I did kind of remove that. I replaced it, I suppose, like alcohol versions for alcohol-free, which reduced the scale of my alcohol consumption. And that had an impact on my weight. I could, instead of having one takeaway every week, which we usually do on a Friday or Saturday, once Gusto runs out, I could go to having one once a month. And that could be something that scales my diet down a bit and scales my weight down a bit more. But the conversations that I need to have with my clients is that, especially as they're getting close to a weight, like a target weight or a goal weight or a number that they had in their head. Someone might want to be 9 stone and they've been hovering around 9.5, and they start questioning their body and questioning this and questioning that. And it's like, you've reached a point where you're going to have to go to extra lengths now to get to that last half stone. Is it really worth it? How much more are you willing to change to get there? Do you want to have to make a change to this? Do you want to have to reduce scale back your social life, scale back your alcohol consumption, scale back your snacking habits, scale back your chocolate fix every day? How much farther are you willing to go with the reductions you've made to your lifestyle to get to that point? And then you just it's a case of making the value judgment. For some people, losing that half stone will be more important. So they will make those changes and they will scale things back. For other people, they'll have gone as far as they're willing to go with their lifestyle. So they'll give up. They'll give up on the 9 stone thing and say, do you know what? 9.5 stone it is, because I would much rather be able to do X, Y, and Z than have to focus so heavily on what I'm eating to make sure my weight stays at 9.5 stones. And that comes back to the whole 5,000 calorie thing on a birthday. For these people who are carrying higher levels of body fat, that's normal for them. That's natural for them. That's where it's where they've been used to consuming. They don't bat an eyelid. Yeah, it's a birthday. Of course it's going to be 5,000 calories because I'm going to have cake and I'm going to go out for breakfast and I'm going to get taken out for lunch and I'm going to go out for dinner, and lunch and dinner are going to be 3 courses plus sides plus drinks, and that's, 5,000 calories might sound shocking to some people, but it's just because that's not where your lifestyle is. That sounds like a lot to you, but there are many people who 5,000's a normal day. I've spoken about this in the past, and people, they can't add those numbers up in their head. It sounds ridiculous. They think it's a massive amount of food, and it's not necessarily. At 1 Domino's pizza and a bottle of wine, and you're already there. Like if you got, I did this one day, it was like a double. I checked to see what the highest calorie thing on the Domino's menu was for this post I did one day, and it was a double. I know it was a double decadence. Well, I can't remember what double decadence means. I think it meant stuffed crust and something else. Was it like cheese in the base or something, whatever it was, and it was 3,800 or 3,900. I don't think it quite broke the 4,000, but that's a single pizza. That's a dinner, a big pizza at that. But if you were able to eat it all, like, it's not completely unrealistic to hit these kind of levels of calories. So yeah, when we're talking about these higher levels of body fat, people who are at 17, 18, 19 and above stone, they have much more to go through than just creating a calorie deficit and losing weight. They have to identify and understand and pick apart their excessive behaviours, the behaviours that took them to 19 stone in the first place, the behaviours where 5,000 calories on a celebration or a night out or a meal out is just the norm. It can't be the norm anymore, because if that continues to remain the norm, living at 19 stone will continue to remain the norm. I wrote an email, a daily post today, where I said that you can't just address your eating habits. It's not enough to eat more protein and eat more fiber and make sure you're not hungry. That might take you 10% of the way towards your goal, but there are going to be a bunch of other things holding you back. Let's say let's stick with the 19 stone example. Let's say you improve the balance of your diet, right? You eat more vegetables, more fruits, you bring more protein into it. That helps you reduce some of the other stuff. And let's say that helps you get 10% of the way there, and it helps you lose your first stone. But then after that, you can't get any farther. So let's say you've got an unhelpful habit where you eat when you're tired, but you create the tiredness because you stay up past midnight watching fucking TikTok videos, and fine well you've got to get up at 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning. So we start to work on sleep, and we maybe say, right, let's stop taking your phone to bed. Set an alarm on your Apple Watch or your Fitbit or whatever you've got, and leave your phone in another room. And we make sure you're in bed for 10 p.m, right? And we start getting them 2 or 3 extra hours of sleep per night. Now we've addressed the tiredness eating habit because they're not as tired the next day, and it's helped them avoid reaching for food. That might take them the next 10% of the way and lose their next stone. But then they can't get any farther. So we've done the diet, we've done the sleeping. What's next? Alcohol habits. They might be binge drinking 3 nights every weekend, which horrifies me because of the amount of calories involved and everything that goes with it. It's not just the alcohol calories, it's the snacks, the crisps you open, the takeaways you order, the McDonald's you get for breakfast the next day to cope with your hangover, the takeaways you get the next day to cope with your hangover, the lying about doing nothing all day to cope with the hangover. Let's say that instead of binge drinking, let's call it 2 nights, 3's excessive. Let's say instead of binge drinking 2 nights every weekend, they bring that down to 1 night every second weekend. Now that could have a massive impact. That could take them the next 20% of the way there and help them lose their next 2 stone. So it's just about addressing and identifying and addressing each of these areas that contribute to your overall weight. Because like these people who I'm helping at the moment, whose weight is at 19 stone, a calorie deficit isn't enough. Like, people always bang on about, it's all calories. It's calories this, calorie that. Just create a calorie deficit. Just eat less and move more. It's not as simple as that for most people. That will take you part of the way there. But you'll get to a point where you can't stick to the deficit anymore. So you then have to start addressing everything else. And this is why people drop off and disappear. Like people that I work with, they'll do great for a while, and then it'll get to that point where the scales are starting to slow down, and then I'll have this conversation that I'm having with you where it's like, right, here's the next thing that's going to have to change. Your eating habits are great, we've got that all on track, but for you specifically, because you have farther to go, we're going to have to start looking at other things. Can we look at increasing your activity? Can we look at improving your sleep, your hydration, your alcohol habits, your takeaway habits? Can we take a look at why every time it's a birthday or a holiday or whatever, you have to have 4,000 and 5,000 calories a day? and we need to take that next step to get to the next point. And throughout each phase of that kind of cycle, each phase of that process, the person is changing. So like if we change the sleep habits, that's great. That knocks that off. That was one thing that took their weight and kept it at 19 stone. If we can change the alcohol habit, that's one of the things that took their weight to and kept them at 19 stone, and etc. etc. So yeah. And the other thing to mention is, like I said, take it away from the 19 stone example. Like, it doesn't matter how much weight you have to lose. If your activity level stays the same, it doesn't often. Like when someone's around 19 stone, they're often not doing very many steps a day because it's quite difficult to be active while carrying that much body fat. Something that I often see that helps is that as people start to lose weight, so let's say someone's 19 stone and they're doing 3,000 steps a day, and we get their weight down to 17 stone, right? That's 28 pounds less they're carrying around. They feel a bit lighter. They feel like life's a bit easier. They're not out of breath as much. And as a result of that, they may look to sit down less often. So, at 19 stone, they were doing 3,000 steps, but now at 17 stone, they're doing 5,000 steps. And we often get this crossover, which kind of cancels out. Yes, you've lost 2 stone and your calorie burn has reduced a bit, but you've increased by 2,000 steps a day, so your calorie burn's increased a bit. And we often get this crossover where weight comes down, activity level goes up, and any kind of reduction in calories gets replaced by an increase in calories. But in people whose activity level doesn't change, their calorie burn just comes down and down and down. Now, in that example I did with the 2,400 calories and the 1,800 calories, if someone's on 2,400 calories, I would have their fat loss calories set at 1,800. And a really good conversation to have in those instances is to explain that one day, when you reach a healthy weight, when you reach the weight that you want to be, the calories that you're on just now to lose weight are going to become your maintenance calories. This will be the number of calories you maintain your weight at. So these things that you're doing at the weekends, these 4,000 and 5,000 calorie days, we'll need to get to a point where that's not you anymore. That's not what you do anymore. Otherwise, you're not going to get to where you want to be. And that can be quite hard hitting for a lot of people. That explanation that once you've lost a significant amount of weight, you're not gonna get to the weight that you want to be and then add 500 or 600 calories back onto your fat loss calories, because that won't be your maintenance anymore. Your maintenance isn't going to be 2,400 anymore, because you won't be that size anymore. You won't be burning that much energy. You won't be carrying that much fat. It's going to be much less. So it's really important, if that is you, and if any of this kind of resonates with you and you're in that position where you feel like you have a lot of weight to lose, something that you have to acknowledge very early on if you want to be successful is that tracking calories won't be enough. Eating more fruit and veg won't be enough. Your weight isn't just where it is because you don't eat enough fruit and veg or you don't eat enough protein. You've got a lot of other things going on that have contributed to it. So it's important to know very early on in the process that a calorie deficit won't be enough. It will get you started and it will take you so far. But you'll get to a point where that's it. Like, you still need the calorie deficit, but it's not going to get you any farther because you have to start changing some other things. Anyway, I hope that's been helpful for my first episode back after not feeling particularly great. And I will see you back here again next week. Until next time.